Hello, welcome to This is Cambodia. Today is Friday, and as usual, today we are going to take a look back at some of the stories that made the rounds this week. Cambodian King Phra Boramarit Norodom Sihamoni has called on Cambodian political parties to solve their differences peacefully. Meanwhile, the king also urged the public to stay calm and avoid making chaos. Ministry of Interior called on the opposition party to comply with the law on peaceful demonstration and to be responsible for any damage during the protests. In other news, Thai government has loosened its rules of hairstyle of students. After several decades of restrictions, Thai students are now free to get their own hairstyles. Hello, I'm Jindalas. It's Friday, August the 9th. Cambodian King Phra Boramarit Norodom Sihamoni has called on political parties to solve their differences peacefully. The king also urged the public to stay calm and avoid making chaos. The appeal was made on Wednesday night in order to calm the tense situation in the country following the election. According to an English newspaper, the Phnom Penh Post, both parties welcomed the appeal. Political situation in Cambodia has remained uncertain following the national elections late last month. There have been calls for the winning parties, the ruling Cambodian People's Party (CPP), and the opposition to find peaceful solutions. And now Cambodian King Norodom Sihamoni has stepped in. The king has called on both political parties to resolve remaining problems peacefully. This is according to his statement issued Wednesday. The king also urged the two parties to come together and discuss to find the best solution for the sake of the country's peace. Meanwhile, the king also urged the public to stay calm and to proceed their work as usual. In response, both parties welcomed the king's appeal. This is according to an English-language newspaper, the Phnom Penh Post. The opposition official told the newspaper that the party wishes the king to get involved in the solution-finding process because they have trust and respect for the king. Meanwhile, a CPP's official said his party wanted to negotiate peacefully with the opposition to find a common solution. National and international organizations have also called for peaceful solutions. Political situation has become tense after the opposition rejected the preliminary results of the recent elections. In preliminary results, the CPP won 68 seats in parliament and the opposition won 55 seats. The opposition party has been reported to have planned a mass protest against the election results. The planned protest has sparked fears among Cambodian people, especially in Phnom Penh. Ministry of Interior on Thursday called on the opposition party to comply with the law on peaceful demonstration, and the opposition party must be held accountable for any violence, damage to national security, and destruction of both public and private properties.
There have been widespread rumors of a planned mass protest by the opposition party against the election results. Though the protest is yet to materialize, it has already caused chaos and panic among Cambodian public. There have been series of appeals from politicians, organizations, and even the king for peaceful solutions to the current tense political situation. Even though the planned protest is still in question, the government wants the protesters to comply with the law. This is according to the press release from the Ministry of Interior signed by Deputy Prime Minister Excellency So Kane. The ministry said that everyone has the right to protest as stipulated in the Cambodia's constitution, but the protest should be conducted pursuant to the law on peaceful demonstration. The ministry warned that the protest leader and perpetrators would be held accountable for any violence, damage to national security, and damage to private and public properties. In recent days, the opposition leaders went out to thank their supporters in the capital as well as in some provinces. The Ministry of Interior said during the gatherings in the provinces and in Phnom Penh, the opposition called on its supporters to join mass demonstration against the election results.
A union's report says up to 20% of factory workers have not turned up at work, and this is due to the fear of a planned protest claimed by the opposition party recently. Unions say it may affect the garment industry if garment workers still not return to work.
Business as usual at the factories in Cambodia, but the number of workers coming to work is less than before the election. In fact, up to 20% of workers haven't returned to work since then. This is according to the Coalition of Cambodian Apparel Workers Democratic Union, CNC. The union said a number of factories have lost some of their workforce, and those who have come to work are getting worried and panicked due to rumors of planned protests. Some workers even asked the factories to pay their salaries before the schedule. The union said factories could lose more workers after paying their salaries, and the union is worried that the chaotic situation may cause instability in the industry. CNC urges all political parties to resolve their differences peacefully and quickly, and not resort to violence for the sake of national development and for the benefits of citizens. Meanwhile, it also urges workers and employees to stay calm.
Phnom Penh residents are worried about any possible chaos in the country if there's a mass protest. They urge the CPP and the CNRP to negotiate peacefully for the country's benefit.
Phnom Penh residents expressed their concerns over the possibility of chaos and insecurity if a mass protest takes place. Citizens said a protest may result in damage to property as well as theft.
If the two parties work together, there won't be conflicts or difficulty for our business. Nowadays it's hard because one side say this and another side say that. There's no common point.
Cambodian King Priya Baramnith Norodom Sihamoni issued a statement on Wednesday asking for a peaceful solution between the two parties. Some residents agreed with the king's appeal.
I agree with the king's statement to negotiate for peace and avoid violence in Cambodia. I want to see a solution as soon as possible to make us easy to do business.
Meanwhile, a bomb blast near Phnom Penh Municipal Court on Wednesday is giving Cambodians even more reason for concern. Recently, local organizations and those from around the world have urged both parties to deal with conflicts and disagreements over the elections in a lawful manner in order to maintain peace and stability for the country.
Civil servants could soon get a pay rise, and it's all thanks to the Cambodian government. Prime Minister Samdech Techo Hun Sen himself has authorized the increase. Now it seems about 90,000 civil servants could soon be granted higher pay. These teachers used to earn about $2 per day, but they could soon be earning about $3 per day. It's all down to a pay rise that has been ordered by Cambodian Prime Minister Samdech Techo Hun Sen. Prime Minister has ordered a pay rise for civil servants in the 3rd and 4th levels. He issued a decree after joining a Council of Ministers meeting in June. The pay rise will come into effect in September. According to a statement issued on Tuesday by the Ministry of Finance and Economy, the decision came after the government found that they can afford to offer the rise. In May, the government increased the minimum wage for government sector workers from $61 per month to $80 per month. Working conditions in Cambodia have improved steadily during the last decade, and the improvement is all thanks to the government, the United Nations, and the non-governmental organizations. Cambodia's labor law has also played a large part in improving the working conditions. To promote the understanding of the law among government workers, an annual competition was organized by Better Factories Cambodia program, run by the International Labour Organization ILO. Application for the 4th annual competition began Tuesday this week.
Cambodia's labor law was adopted in 1997. To promote the understanding of the law among garment workers, a UN agency initiated an annual competition. The competition is organized by Better Factories Cambodia of the International Labour Organization (ILO). ILO says it is now accepting applications for the fourth annual labor law competition among garment workers. The competition involves workers challenging one another in a live radio setting, testing their knowledge of the labor law. Better Factories Cambodia program is holding this competition in collaboration with radio station VU FM 105.5. ILO says the competition is aimed to promote better understanding and knowledge of the labor law among workers. Entering the competition is free of charge and is open to all current and former garment workers. 18 candidates will be shortlisted to compete against one another in front of a jury panel during radio live broadcast. The competition will be aired every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. beginning October the 11th until December the 13th. The first place winner will be awarded $250 and an LCD TV. The runner-up will receive $200 and a bicycle. The third place winner will obtain $150 and a mobile phone. And each winner will receive a certificate of recognition.
That's all in part 1. When we come back, we take a look back at other Latin news in the region and elsewhere. Stay tuned.
www.cnc.com.kh ដើម្បីបញ្ជូនរូបភាពមកកាន់ពួកយើងក្នុងកម្មវិធីរបាយការណ៍របស់ខ្ញុំកម្មវិធីព័ត៌មាននេះឧបត្ថម្ភដោយស្រាបៀរកម្ពុជាស្រាបៀរជាតិមោទនភាពជាតិ
Welcome back. Coming up in this part of the program, we take a look at some other lighter news in the region and the world. In Thailand, the education system had designed hairstyle for students for several decades. Students were not allowed to enjoy a different hairstyle, but now they are free to have their own favorite hairstyles.
Uniform and not just in dress. Identical haircuts are also on the curriculum for these Thai school children. Generations have sported regimented tresses, but new, looser rules mean growing hopes of more individuality.
I will feel more confident when I go out because my hair will be longer. I'm embarrassed having this kind of hairstyle.
Many schools have provided a steady stream of clients to Thai hairdressers by sending kids with longer locks for the chop. Rules in place since 1972 meant boys were given a close crop, while girls were mostly given pudding bowl bobs. After a complaint on human rights grounds, they can now let their hair grow, if they keep it neat, although many schools still favour shorter looks.
We do not say that the students have to have army haircuts, but we focus on looking disciplined. And when they have short hair, I think they look cleaner.
The new move has raised concerns in an education system long accused of promoting rigid conformity. Some teachers worry that students will focus more on looks than books, but kids say that's unfounded.
It depends on us how much we want to pay attention to studying or to beauty. For me, I would rather pay attention to my studies.
It's too early to say whether this new freedom heralds a shift away from the orthodoxy of the past, but for these youngsters, it's a minor revolution.
The waters of the mighty Mekong River have sustained generations of families, but nowadays its fishermen often find their nets empty, and they fear hydropower mega dams will destroy their livelihoods.
This used to be a common sight, but is now increasingly rare. Every day and most nights, fishermen search the Mekong for their increasingly elusive catch on this stretch of the river that separates Thailand and Laos. The men here say they are catching far fewer fish than ever before and blame a series of dams that have been built upstream in China.
Before, the water levels would depend on the seasons, but now when it's low tide, all the water goes down. I think it's because they're closing and opening the dams, and that's why the fish numbers have gone down.
And a new dam in neighbouring Laos is threatening fish stocks here even more. Conservationists say the Xayaburi Dam, currently under construction, will stop fish from being able to travel up the river to breed, and that would affect the entire Mekong River system that flows from China through Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam.
The Mekong River's been taken over. Since the Xayaburi Dam started, it's been a coup against the Mekong. They haven't listened to public opinion.
The builders of the billion-dollar dam have so far refused to comment, but Laotian authorities say the project has incorporated passages that fish will be able to swim up. Tens of millions of people rely on the Mekong to survive, and despite these assurances, they remain deeply concerned. Their connection to the river goes beyond a food source.
There are many festivals and traditions that connected to the Mekong River, like the belief that the Naga, the big snake, the giant snake Naga, live in the Mekong River as a spirit to protect the Mekong River. But if the dam are built in blocking the river anywhere, this means that the Naga cannot move to upstream to downstream anymore.
The Xayaburi is the first of 11 planned dams along the Mekong in Laos and Cambodia. They will provide a huge amount of clean electricity to millions of people, as well as generating millions in revenues for their respective governments. But for those who live by the banks of the river, their way of life could change forever.
Film industry in Myanmar was collapsing during the last few decades. Hundreds of movie theaters shut down since 1950s due to political influence. However, the government has recently lifted freedom of speech and its film industry is recovering. But political-related movies still have obstacles.
In a dark, cramped room in Yangon, a Burmese film director is testing his artistic freedom. He's editing a movie about the 1988 uprising in which the government killed 3,000 people and arrested thousands more. In Myanmar, where freedom of speech restrictions have only recently been lifted, the country's film industry is going through a resurgence, albeit a tentative one.
I've lived in the box for 25 years. Now the government gives us freedom, but it's hard because we are afraid. We have no idea about free thinking.
Back in the 1950s, Myanmar's film industry was booming. Movies were churned out for the country's some 244 theaters. Today, many of those theaters are falling apart, have been shut down or removed altogether to make way for other buildings. And while Myanmar's movie industry is headed for a revival, some industry veterans say it'll be slow going when it comes to topics like politics or corruption. Even today, the new quasi-civilian government's reforms only go so far. Films still have to go through the censorship board.
Now in the US, food trucks can be found in most American cities and especially in nation's capital. It has become a new trend for many people, and food trucks owners are more than happy doing their business there. But traditional restaurant owners say the competition is not fair.
It's lunchtime in downtown Washington, and there's not a parking space in sight. Dozens of food trucks converge here at the same time every day, and the queues build up quickly. For a couple of hours, the whole square becomes an open-air restaurant.
I like that we can all get whatever we want to eat, and then we can all just come together and enjoy the sunshine.
Well, this is my first time at the food trucks in DC, and we got the hot dog stand, and it was really good and big and messy and fun, and I think it's cool that they have lots of options around here.
Customers can sample the flavors of the Caribbean, Mexico, or perhaps Indonesia, as well as more local cuisine, of course. From small beginnings, the food truck business has seen explosive growth and is still expanding by more than 8% each year nationwide. The local authorities have now amended legislation to reflect the new situation.
In June, DC Council had passed and Mayor Gray has signed new food truck regulations, and it really brought to a close a process that's gone on for years. They updated food truck regulations that are now almost 40 years old, so it was a significant accomplishment.
The new laws envisage a lottery system for parking permits and seem to confirm that food trucks are here to stay. But this isn't something that traditional restaurants are keen to hear. Michael is the youngest member of the Rim family, who run a restaurant on a square that's become a mecca for food trucks. For him, the new arrivals aren't playing by the same rules.
Obviously, we are in a business to make money, and they are stealing competition. But at the same time, it's just like what I said. It's just not. I don't see it as being fair, because we do a lot of work to make sure that we keep to the guidelines and the standards that the Department of Health puts us on. Now, I feel like they don't have to do as much work.
The Food Truck Association denies such claims. What's clear is that here, as in other cities, these culinary rivals are going to have to cook up a compromise.
And finally, we take a look back at the story in Peru. A young and rare Bengal tiger was born over 40 days ago in a zoo. The zookeepers are proud to show her to the visitors, and now she has become the zoo's main attraction.
An exceptional new arrival. This white Bengal tiger cub is the first of its kind to be born in Peru, and she's fast becoming the Huachipa Zoo's main attraction, says vet Catalina Hermosa.
The animal is 41 days old. She is being hand-reared, and that's important to ensure her survival because the mother did not have enough milk.
The yet unnamed cub is being fed a diet of milk, beef and chicken, and will rejoin her parents when she is 6 months old. But being so popular can be exhausting.
That's all for today's program. Thank you for watching. Me, Chindola, and the rest of the This is Cambodia team will see you again on Monday. Have a nice weekend.